जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरवनचारी यमुनातीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरवनचारी यमुनातीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे। जय पंचतत्व 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 जय पंचतत्व। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र सतश्री श्रीमद His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON Beauty Founder Srila Prabhupada ki, Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. You can chant Mangalacharan prayers together. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatapadakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 27, Understanding Material Nature, Shloka number 27 also. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ. Yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ. Yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ. Kālena bahu-janmanā. Kālena bahu-janmanā. Kālena bahu-janmanā. Sarvatra jāta-vairāgya. Sarvatra jāta-vairāgya. Sarvatra jāta-vairāgya. ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ. ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ. ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ. yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ kālena bahu-janmanā sarvatra jāta-vairāgya ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ kālena bahu-janmanā sarvatra jāta-vairāgya ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ kālena bahu-janmanā sarvatra jāta-vairāgya ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ bahu-janmanā sarvatra jāta-vairāgya ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ kālena bahu-janmanā sarvatra jāta-vairāgya ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ kālena bahu-janmanā sarvatra jāta-vairāgya ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ. Mataji? yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ kālena bahu-janmanā sarvatra jāta-vairāgya ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ. Anyone else? yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ kālena bahu-janmanā sarvatra jāta-vairāgya ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ yadā, when, evam, thus, adhyātma-rataḥ, engaged in self-realization, kālena, for many years, bahu-janmanā, for many births, sarvatra, everywhere, jāta-vairāgyaḥ, detachment is born, ā-brahma-bhuvanāt, up to Brahmaloka, muniḥ, a thoughtful person. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation: when a person thus engages in devotional service and self-realization for many, many years and births, he becomes completely reluctant to enjoy any one of the material planets, even up to the highest planet, which is known as Brahmaloka. He becomes fully developed in consciousness. Let's do responsively. When a person thus engages in devotional service and self-realization for many, many years and births, he becomes completely reluctant to enjoy any one of the material planets, even up to the highest planet, which is known as Brahmaloka. He becomes fully developed in consciousness. Purport. Anyone engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as a devotee. But there is a distinction between pure devotees and mixed devotees. A mixed devotee engages in devotional service for the spiritual benefit of being internally engaged in the transcendental abode of the Lord in full bliss and knowledge. In material existence, when a devotee is not completely purified, he expects material benefit from the Lord in the form of relief from material miseries, or he wants material gain, advancement in knowledge of the relationship between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entity, or knowledge as to the real nature of the Supreme Lord. When a person is transcendental to these conditions, he is called a pure devotee. He does not engage himself in the service of the Lord for any material benefit or for understanding of the Supreme Lord. His one interest is that he loves the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he spontaneously engages in satisfying him. The highest example of pure devotional service is that of the gopis in Vrindavan. They are not interested in understanding Krishna, but only in loving him. That platform of love is the pure state of devotional service. Unless one is advanced to this pure state of devotional service, there is a tendency to desire elevation to a higher material position. A mixed devotee may desire to enjoy a comfortable life on another planet with a greater span of life, such as on Brahmaloka. These are material desires. But because a mixed devotee engages in the service of the Lord, ultimately, after many, many lives of material enjoyment, he undoubtedly develops Krishna consciousness. And the symptom of this Krishna consciousness is that he is no longer interested in any sort of materially elevated life. He does not even aspire to become a personality like Lord Brahma. Yadaivam adhyātma-rataḥ kālena bahu-janmanā sarvatra jāta-vairāgya ā-brahma-bhuvanān muniḥ. When a person thus engages in devotional service and self-realization for many, many years and births, he becomes completely reluctant to enjoy any one of the material planets, even up to the highest planet, which is known as Brahmaloka. He becomes fully developed in consciousness. Welcome to everyone for this morning's discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam 3:27-27. It's nice to see many devotees here today. Often this time of the year in Mayapur, I remember last year we had 10, 12 devotees only. So we have at least double that. So it's nice to see that devotees are eager to hear Srimad Bhagavatam according to the directions of Srila Prabhupada. I'm going to read one line of this purport again, and I'd request you just to meditate a little bit on this one line. So, devotee engages in devotional service for the spiritual benefit of being eternally engaged in the transcendental abode of the Lord in full bliss and knowledge. So this is the second sentence. And actually it says a mixed devotee does this. And when I first read this line, I was thinking, this doesn't sound like a mixed devotee. Spiritual benefit, eternally engaged in the transcendental abode of the Lord, full bliss and knowledge. To me this sounded like this is perfection. This should be something that pure devotees engage in. And I was even wondering, maybe there's some, sometimes the transcribers, when they would listen to Srila Prabhupada's dictation, they couldn't understand some words, and sometimes that's how some of the errors crept into some of Srila Prabhupada's books. And also in the first line, Prabhupada says, distinction between pure devotee and mixed devotee. So therefore, logically, generally you would speak first about the pure devotee and then about the mixed devotee. So I was thinking maybe it's actually a pure devotee. But when you continue the purport, then we see what is this actual standard of pure devotional service, and especially in the second paragraph. The highest example of pure devotional service is that of the gopis in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada ends the first paragraph saying that a pure devotee's interest is that he loves the Supreme Personality of Godhead and spontaneously engages in satisfying him. So often what we think as a very lofty goal in our devotional service, the goal of spiritual life, to go back to Godhead, to engage in the Lord's loving service. In this purport, at least, Prabhupada says this is a mixed devotee. And a pure devotee is not interested in going back to Godhead. He's not interested even in understanding the Lord, but his sole interest is in loving the Lord and in giving pleasure to the Lord. So therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also has given the example of the gopis as the highest summum bonum of devotional attitude. Ramya kachit upasana vraju vadhu vargena ya kalpita. Srila Prabhupada would quote this verse many times, and it's, in fact, the entire shloka is quite, it's like a synopsis of devotional service. Aradhyo Bhagavan vrajesha tanayas tadhama vrindavanam ramya kachit upasana vraju vadhu vargena ya kalpita. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Prema Pumarto Mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matamidam Tatradara Napara. It's very systematic. Aradhyo Bhagavan, the supreme worshipable personality of Godhead, is Vrajesha Tanaya, the son of the Lord of Vraja, Nanda Maharaj. Tadhama Vrindavanam, his supreme eternal abode is Vrindavan. Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajavadu Vargena Yakalpita. This line perhaps is quoted the most often by Srila Prabhupada. And he's saying this is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's opinion, that the method of devotional service as practiced by the gopis is the highest. There's no comparison to the level of surrender, level of devotional service displayed by the gopis of Vrindavan. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumarto Mahan. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana, or it's the highest proof. And this is the opinion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there can be nothing higher than this. So just in one shloka, the whole devotional goal is summarized. So of course we know that this is the fact. The love and the devotion displayed by the gopis of Vrindavan is the highest. Of course, it's not just when we say gopis, often we think of Radharani and the Sakhis and the gopis in Madhurya Lila. It also refers to the gopis in Vatsalya Bhav, in the parental mood to Krishna, headed by Mother Yashoda. So it's not just Madhurya Lila, it's also, the gopis are also displaying the highest aspect of Vatsalya Lila, the affection displayed by the elderly gopis and Mother Yashoda is the topmost exhibition of Vatsalya Ras. Actually, in Nectar of Devotion, there is a description of all the devotees who are displaying Vatsalya Ras to the highest degree. There's a list of 9 personalities. I've actually mentioned this one previously, some years back in a class, of who are the topmost devotees in Vatsalya Ras. So who do you think is the number 1? Supreme embodiment of Vatsalya Ras towards Krishna. Mother Yashoda, obviously. Huh? So number 2, Nanda Maharaj. No? Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Number 3 is Rohini, Balaram's mother, Rohini. Then number 4 is all the other gopis, especially the gopis who had Krishna as their own son during the Brahma Vimohan Lila, when Brahma apparently kidnapped all the cowherd boys. Then Krishna, not wanting to disturb the situation in Vrindavan, he expanded himself as all the cowherd boys. And for 1 whole year, we know the story that the gopis and the gopas, they related to their own children with as much love as they had for Krishna. Usually they would love Krishna more even than their own children, but now it was 50-50. As much love they had for Krishna, they had for their own children, because Krishna actually became their children to fulfill their desire to have that Vatsalya Bhav with him. So that's number 4. Number 5, we shift to Dwarka or Mathura. Devaki is number 5. Number 6 are the other wives of Vasudeva. It says that he had 15 other wives. Number 7 is Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas. Number 8 is Vasudeva, Krishna's real father, you could say. And number 9 is Krishna's spiritual master, Sandipani Muni. So it's a very nice list to meditate on, different degrees of ecstasy and love shown by these personalities to Krishna. So once again, it's Yashoda, Nanda, Rohini, all the other gopis, Devaki, the other wives of Vasudeva, Kunti, Vasudeva, and Sandipani Muni. So I'll just read the line that Srila Prabhupada concludes this part of Nectar Devotion. He says, all these are considered respectable elderly personalities with parental love for Krishna. This list is in order of superior importance, and thus we can see that Mother Yashoda and Maharaj Nanda are considered to be the supermost of all elderly personalities. And that is again underscored here by Srila Prabhupada's Purport, where he says the highest example of pure devotional service is that of the gopis in Vrindavan. They are not interested in understanding Krishna, but only in loving him. And we see during the Rajalila, whenever Krishna's Aishwarya comes out, like when Mother Yashoda saw the universes inside Krishna's mouth, temporarily she was bewildered. How is this possible that my son, the universes are displayed inside his mouth? Who is he really? But very quickly, her maternal affection, her Vatsalya Prem, overcame such feelings, and she disregarded them and simply related to Krishna as her darling child who is fully dependent on her. Of course, gopis also, the gopis in the Madhurya Ras, they also had similar sentiments towards Krishna. And we know the story that it's not necessarily found in Bhagavatam, but Srila Prabhupada told this story several times. In fact, in the famous Pandal program in Bombay, I believe it was in 1973, devotees even enacted this drama about the time that Krishna had a headache. So this, obviously, it's some very special lila, because we know that Krishna can't have a headache. Krishna's body is Satchit Ananda. His head is always cool and calm and collected. He doesn't get headaches like those of us with material bodies. Some of the older devotees here might remember many years back on the radio in India, they had an ad for balm, for like this tiger balm, for headaches. And it shows how Vedic culture is still just under the surface, even in India. So the ad was that Ravana is complaining that he has a headache. And of course, if Ravana has a headache, it's more serious because he has 10 heads, right? So he needs 10 times the amount of balm to cool his headache. So like that, Krishna, he's saying that, I have a headache. And you can imagine if Krishna has a headache, all the devotees will be very concerned how to alleviate Krishna's headache. So, they're trying to prescribe different cures for Krishna's headache. And Krishna says, no, nothing is going to cure my headache. Only one medicine is there, the dust from the feet of my devotees. If I apply the dust of the feet of my devotees on my head, then my headache will be cured. So this is a very strange situation. Which devotee is going to give the dust of their feet to Krishna's head, to apply on Krishna's head? So, in a few different ways, Prabhupada tells the story. Sometimes they said that Narad Muni is the one who is going to different levels of devotees and asking them, please give your foot dust, Krishna has a headache. Then accordingly the responses are, some people may not believe that Krishna has a headache, because how can Krishna have a headache? And others will think, I can't do that, this is such a great offense. If I give my foot dust to Krishna's head, I'll go to hell. It's such a great offense, such a great seva aparad. Just like when we learn to worship the deity, we very carefully dress the deity and handle the deity. Never want to bump the deity or put a pin, in the turban that touches the deity's head. In Mayapur Academy, during the dressing course, if there's any pin that's touching the head of the deity, you're automatic fail, and you have to redo your turban. So like that, with so much, and even when we touch each other, in the temple sometimes we bump into someone, or we, with our foot, may touch their foot. Immediately we ask for, forgiveness. What to speak of putting one's own foot on the head of the deity, or the dust from one's foot on the head of the deity, or on the head of Krishna himself. So like that, no one was willing to take that risk. And when the gopis were approached, as Prabhupada tells the story, they immediately sat down and started scraping off whatever dust or sand or Vrajaraj was on their feet to collect and gather and give to Krishna. And either it was Narad Muni or whoever was the messenger was surprised and, how is this? You're not afraid of committing an offense? No other devotees were willing to do this. And for the gopis, there wasn't even a second thought that if Krishna has a headache and Krishna needs this cure, then why would we not do it? Because their only focus, their only meditation is how to make Krishna happy. And they had no consideration of what would happen to them. Just like in the last verse of Shikshashtika, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Yathatata va vidadhatu lampato. Krishna may embrace me, he may adarshanat marmahatam, he may break my heart by not being present before me, he may handle me roughly, but he's always unconditionally, he's always my Lord, forever. So gopis had no hesitation to give the foot dust from their feet to apply on Krishna's head to cure his so-called headache. So in that way, this is just one example that just shows how the consciousness of the gopis, how their attitude of devotional service, their love for Krishna is beyond any rules and regulation. It's beyond even understanding who Krishna is, that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're not interested. They're simply interested in how to please Krishna and display their love for him. So like that, this is the level of pure devotional service that Srimad Bhagavatam is encouraging us to aspire for. Otherwise, generally, as we see in this shloka, devotional service, it says kālena bahu-janmanā. It's not something that generally we can attain in a short amount of time. And this is something that is throughout Shastra actually. There's a lot of emphasis that it may take many lifetimes to cultivate the attitude of pure devotional service. What to speak of the attitude on the level of the gopis. Kālena bahu-janmanā. Many years, many births. And we know from Bhagavad Gita also, bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. It takes many births, many lifetimes. Even in our daily song, we sing in Guru Puja, Chakudan diloye, janme janme Prabhu se. So it could be seen in two ways. Janme janme Prabhu se means that once one accepts the shelter of a spiritual master, then even life after life, we're surrendered to serving the order of the spiritual master. We may not go back to Godhead in one life, but we'll continue serving the order of the Guru. But it also can mean that it may take many lifetimes to get to this level of purification, this level of surrender, that we can go back to Godhead. And on the other hand, we see many times, Srila Prabhupada, in his letters especially, he would encourage the devotees that it is possible to go back to Godhead in one lifetime. Although Shastra is generally saying, bahu-janmanā, bahunam janmanamante, Prabhupada often would say, many references. He would tell the devotees, you chant 16 rounds with attention, you follow the four regulative principles, you engage in devotional service, just give this one lifetime to Krishna, and you can go back to Godhead. So this is actually something quite revolutionary, which you don't generally find in Shastra. Of course, there are stories of great devotees like, Dhruva Maharaj and others who in one lifetime go back to Godhead. But generally, it's considered, it could be a multi-lifetime process to gradually purify oneself step by step to the level one is able to go back to Godhead. But by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, he's giving that facility to us that just in one lifetime, if we surrender, if we execute our devotional service seriously, especially if we chant Hare Krishna with attention, free from offenses, then we can go back to Godhead in one life. It's quite an extraordinary opportunity. In many temples in the West, they chant the 10 offenses to the holy name after Mangalarti. In Mayapur, of course, our Mangalarti is like double the length of most temples. So we used to chant Shikshashtakam some years back, but anyway, many temples they chant the 10 offenses, and prefacing that, they'll chant one shloka from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bahu-janmanā kari jadi shravana kirtan tabuta na paye Krishna pade premadhan. And it's also quite a sobering verse, because it's saying that bahu-janmanā kari jadi, you can hear and chant for many births, but you won't attain the love of Godhead, which is the ultimate goal of this chanting, if you're chanting with offenses. So that's the catch. And then recite the 10 offenses and start the japa period. So generally it is considered multi-lifetime effort to get to this level of pure consciousness. But by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, he gave the process in a very simplified form. We perform our sadhana, we chant Hare Krishna, we serve the Vaishnavas, perform our devotional service, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, live in the temple in a holy place, associate with devotees, then, even in one lifetime. And we've seen it. We've seen so many examples of devotees, even in a short time practicing Krishna consciousness, in their last moments, they're surrounded by devotees, helping them to remember the Lord, to think of the Lord, to chant the holy name, even at the last moments of life. So this is one of the great benedictions that we are getting by mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So the other point mentioned in this purport is that such a devotee who is practicing devotional service, he is reluctant, or in Sanskrit it's vairāgya, jāta-vairāgya, this mood of renunciation develops. So he's not interested in enjoying even up to the planet of Lord Brahma, ā-brahma, up to Brahmaloka. So that means whatever enjoyment is to be found within this material world, from the highest planet, Brahmaloka, down to our earthly planet, pure devotee has no interest in. And that's also quite an extraordinary platform. You know, we can just imagine if some demigod appeared in this room right now and said, wherever you want to go in the universe, I'll arrange it, I'll send you. You know, and I'm sure for many of us would think, oh, that's such an opportunity. Maybe I'd like to go to Hawaii and enjoy the beaches. Or if you're more intelligent, let's go to Brahmaloka, let's go to Indraloka, enjoy there. Well, we can also keep our bhakti intact. What to speak of any, gross material enjoyment which people in this world are spending their whole lives endeavoring for. So it's actually quite a elevated platform. To be so focused on Krishna, on serving Krishna, on loving Krishna, that one has no material desires. Only once all those desires are purified can we actually be said to come to the platform of pure devotional service. The last line of the purport, Prabhupada says that a devotee of the Lord does not even aspire to become a personality like Lord Brahma. What to speak of going to Brahmaloka, even to become Lord Brahma. It's not an aspiration for a devotee. Of course, we know that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung exactly this in one of his songs. He says he would rather be an insect in the house of a devotee than to become Lord Brahma, who is not a devotee. Kita janma hau yata vairāgya bahirmukha brahma janme nahi. That means literally, he preferred to be, sometimes we see on the walls, tick-ticky, or some bee or wasp might fly inside this hall. Some ants might be living in the corner. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's praying, I would rather be in such a actually condemned form of life. The insects are very, very low on the evolutionary scale. One of the lower categories of living entity. But he would rather be an insect in the house of a devotee than have a position like Lord Brahma, which is the ultimate highest birth in this material world. If Lord Brahma is bahirmukha, he's turned away from the Lord. He's not a devotee of the Lord. So, this is the meditation of our Acharya. Not interested at all in any kind of material enjoyment, even up to Brahmaloka. So another point which I wish to touch upon today is, according to the date, it's August 15th, and for those patriotic Indians here, it is Independence Day. And I have to admit that today I didn't notice it much, but on previous years I've seen many devotees put Indian flag on their totos or the motorbikes, or even fly from the roof of the building. And this is not something that certainly didn't happen in Srila Prabhupada's time, and even growing up in Mayapur I never saw it till a few years back. So today I'm not sure, maybe it's not such a thing anymore, but at least 2-3 years back it was very common. And many devotees had the Indian flag. And it's led me to wonder that, what is this? Is it something that we should be encouraging? Is it something positive, favorable for devotional service? And what does Srila Prabhupada have to say about independence of India and independence in general, and how to try to get a little bit Shastric vision on this topic? So I tried to research a little bit what Srila Prabhupada had to say, and apparently on August 15 he never spoke about Independence Day. We know he spoke about appearance of the Lord, he spoke about Rath Yatra, so many different festivals, but Independence Day is not on the Vaishnava calendar, so it's not very important from a spiritual point of view. Of course, Srila Prabhupada did talk about independence, and we know Srila Prabhupada in his younger days, he was actually a follower of Gandhi, and he was in that mood in the 1920s and all. He was in the he was taking part in the independence movement. When Srila Prabhupada graduated from Scottish Church College in Kolkata, he refused his degree, which was quite a strong statement against the British rule. That I'm not, and Gandhi was encouraging that Prabhupada says in his own words that if you accept the degree, it means you're following the British system. And whereas Gandhi's goal was non-cooperation and Swaraj for India. So Srila Prabhupada originally, he was interested in that aspect of gaining freedom for India. And we know that this really came out when he first met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That historic meeting in 1922 in Ultadanga in Calcutta. And I hope all the devotees have been to that location. The Ultadanga temple now, it's been purchased by our devotees and refurbished and renovated as much as possible as it used to be in the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So you can go to that very rooftop where Srila Prabhupada was dragged, in his own words, Prabhupada said his friend Narendranath Malik dragged him to see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur for the first time. Now, Prabhupada in his younger days, he had seen many sadhus come to his father's house. Gaur Mohan Dev was very charitable, and says every day sadhus were coming and they were feeding them. But Prabhupada wasn't very impressed with the level of sadhus. Many of them were simply beggars who put on saffron. So when he heard about this new sadhu, he wasn't interested in going. Literally, his friend had to drag him there. And when they entered the presence of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, just from seeing them, the way they were dressed and their appearance, he could understand that these boys are educated and from respectable families. So without even no introductions, he immediately gave them the order that you are educated young men, why don't you preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu around the world? Forget any pleasantries, any formalities. And Prabhupada was taken aback, I don't even know this person, never met him before, and he's giving me this instruction. He was impressed that this sadhu is so convinced and strong in his preaching. But Prabhupada's objection, immediately he said, who is going to listen to us? We are a subjugated nation. We're not even independent in our own country, so who's going to listen to our spiritual message? We need to get independence first. So this Prabhupada was showing his mood, and it was his first somewhat challenging question. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he responded that the message of the Lord, message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it doesn't depend on any political situation. It's so urgent, it's so important that it doesn't matter who is in charge of the government. We can't wait for that moment to come. It has to be preached on an urgent basis, notwithstanding any political situation. And there was some further discussion, and Srila Prabhupada was very impressed. And from that moment on, he accepted that this sadhu, he's my spiritual master. He accepted him in his heart. And he told his friend that the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in very capable hands. So like that, Prabhupada, after that meeting, then he became in his heart a follower of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he gave up his Gandhian ideals, which, prior to that he was considering himself a follower of Gandhi. Of course, later on, we can see many times when Srila Prabhupada would talk about Indian independence, he had a little different opinion than the popular narrative. And Srila Prabhupada many times said that the real reason the British left India is not because of Gandhi. Gandhi was doing non-violent, non-cooperation. And for many, many years, decades actually, he was trying this. And the British weren't leaving India. But Prabhupada said that Subhash Chandra Bose, when he collected Indian soldiers to attack India, violence, leaving aside the principle of ahimsa, that's when the British got worried. And that was the trigger for them to start withdrawing from India and granting independence to India. So there's a lot of details we could speak about, perhaps not required, but that was Srila Prabhupada's personal opinion. And he actually knew Subhash Chandra Bose personally, because they were both students in the same college, Scottish Church College in Kolkata. So after India gained independence also, Srila Prabhupada, although he wasn't a follower of Gandhi, he wanted to reach out to Gandhi and encourage him to take up his spiritual life more seriously. Because Gandhi had professed to be a student of Bhagavad Gita, and he was, on many levels, a saintly person. But after independence, he was still involved in the political system. Although he wasn't an official member of the government, he was still involved, and he was still trying to give advice. And he was a little bit disappointed that many of his schemes hadn't manifest. He didn't want India and Pakistan to be divided, but that happened. So he was a bit disappointed. So Prabhupada wanted that, because he's such a famous personality, if he really took to Krishna consciousness, then the whole India could be changed. So he wrote this very famous letter to Gandhi, I think in 1948. It's actually many pages long. It's like an essay almost. Prabhupada was a very prolific writer. Even before he started translating Bhagavatam, he wrote many long articles, many long letters in his Vanaprastha days. So he wrote a very long letter to Gandhi, saying that all this time you've been dealing in politics, and now your goal has been achieved. India has become independent. So please, now you should take up the message of Bhagavad Gita fully, and not, half-half. Give the spiritual example, because that's the real wealth of India. There's another point that Srila Prabhupada would regularly make, that after independence, India should have shown the world their spiritual knowledge. Instead of following the Western system of industrialization and factories and modernizing the country, just following the West, the real treasure that India has to give is bhakti and the message of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And that actually Srila Prabhupada himself took up. When Gandhi didn't reply to his letter, Srila Prabhupada, following the order of his spiritual master, he's actually the one who exported the real wealth of India to the Western countries. Whereas in India, they were following under Nehru's direction, industrialization, and leaving the countryside, moving to the cities to work in factories. And later on, Prabhupada said many times that even though the British left India, the condition of the average person did not improve. If anything, it got more deteriorated. And he gave an example that the people working in the government, they're sitting there stamping different papers. And previously the stamp would say, "Here, His Majesty's government." Now the stamp has been changed to Government of India. But the actual situation was the same. There was no real great material or spiritual benefit for India to have gotten independence. In some ways, actually, the British rule was better for the average person. And this is Srila Prabhupada's opinion, and he's expressed that many times. So even we can see in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, when I was thinking about this, we know that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was not worried about independence. In fact, Subhash Chandra Bose came to him because so many young men were joining Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Subhash Chandra Bose said, you should give me these men, we'll go and fight. I'll take them and make them into soldiers, and we'll fight against the British. And he said, no, these boys are all very weak sadhus, they're not good for fighting. You you do your thing, I'll do my thing. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was a magistrate in the British government. In fact, he used his position to further his devotional service in some way. Just like when he wanted to find out the holy birth site of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told the British, you have to transfer me to Krishnanagar Navadvip, otherwise I'm resigning. And they were so indebted to his service that they allowed him to transfer here. We know his house where he began his research to find out the actual Janmasthana of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if we go further back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, who was the king at that time of Bengal? It was Nawab Hussain Shah. But we don't see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made any movement to overthrow the Nawab or to, attack and take over the kingdom. In fact, only political agitation Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did was when the Qazi tried to stop the Sankirtan. And then he protested against the government. Otherwise, he was executing his devotional service, he was doing kirtan, preaching, even though the government was not favorable. So like that, we can see that the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of our acharyas, that political dependence, independence, who is sitting in the highest post often doesn't make much difference. It's not a very important consideration for prosecuting devotional service. So another special event today is it's the last day for devotees to submit your homages to Srila Prabhupada Vyas Puja in Mayapur. So that's actually more important, to express our dependence on Srila Prabhupada's mercy and to take the time, maybe half an hour, maybe 1 hour, to actually write, express our gratitude and our appreciation for Srila Prabhupada and what he's done for us. It's much more important than celebrating the independence of India. So for those devotees who have yet to submit your Vyasa Puja homage, personally I've started mine, I haven't finished, but I'm going to finish today. I would encourage all of you, take half an hour, take 1 hour, and actually feel, express what is in our hearts, our gratitude, our dedication, our thankfulness to all that Srila Prabhupada gave us, all the endeavors he performed. And every day we're going to his murti, we're offering flowers, we're offering obeisances. So we're offering our respect in that way. But on the Vyasa Puja day is something more than that. We can actually personally express from our own hearts our feelings to Srila Prabhupada, and we can read that to him on the Vyasa Puja day, which is in just a few weeks. So if you're not aware of this, just downstairs in the courtyard you'll see a big poster that gives the different ways you can submit your homage. Today is the last day, so I would encourage all of you individually, whoever hasn't done that, take half an hour, take an hour, dedicate that to Srila Prabhupada, and you'll feel the difference after writing that. It makes it more meaningful than simply offering some flowers as a routine mechanical thing, which we may be doing on other days. Yeah, so time is almost up. If there are any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Sometimes this doubt question comes in mind, like Prabhupada more stressed on go back to Godhead. And go back to Godhead, mostly is stress that we should have desire, we should be, target should be to go back to Godhead. But we see Mahaprabhu's mood, he never stressed on that point. As you were saying, in Shikshashtakam also he is not mentioning about this, we should have any target of go back to Godhead. So what should be the Vaishnava's devotee mood be like? His target, is the goal of life should be to go back to Godhead, or some loving service or Krishna Prem, So what should be mood like?
Yeah, I think when we are newer in Krishna consciousness, the idea of going back to Godhead is very attractive. If we're coming from a difficult situation or suffering in the material world, then going back to Godhead and being with Krishna, no birth, no death, no old age, no disease, it can be an impetus to upgrade our devotional service. But ultimately, that in and of itself is not really the goal, because why we want to go back to Godhead, it's really to serve Krishna. because we can offer our loving service to the Lord. And that we can do here also. So if we can serve Krishna with our full mind, body, words, then that means we're already fully engaged. Because what is the spiritual world? The spiritual world is where everyone is engaged in devotional service to the Lord 24/7. So as much we can do that here, then in one sense there's not much difference. Especially because we're a preaching movement, then sometimes the goal of going back to Godhead can be a little bit selfish, that I want to go back to Godhead so I can serve Krishna and be happy. But when we are in the parampara of Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas, whose mission is not just to go back to Godhead, a few individuals here and there, but actually to try to change the consciousness of society and to give this pure message, spiritual message to everyone. And for that reason, book distribution, sankirtan, preaching, harinam, all these things, that we are so fortunate to have access to try to give that to others. That's actually a higher principle than simply for one's own personal motives, goal to go back to Godhead alone. And that's what Srila Prabhupada expressed in his own life. He was living in Vrindavan very comfortably, Radha Damodar temple, Rupa Goswami Samadhi, with the acharyas, with the books. But he left that comfortable situation to give that message to all of us. And it took so much trouble to do that. So yeah, it is a higher principle, and that's what Srila Prabhupada is referring to here. Gopis are not interested in understanding Krishna and only in loving him. And by doing that, then automatically you're back to Godhead. You'll go back to Godhead in this lifetime.
But Prabhupada, why emphasize more about this, especially magazine also, like back to Godhead? So why emphasize more this point to go back to Godhead, and many lectures and many time he has spoken about it. We should have desire to go back. Yeah,
Prabhupada is encouraging us to make that the goal. But once you become a little bit advanced in devotional service, then physically going back to Godhead is not so important. More important is to follow the order of the spiritual master. And if you do that, then going back to Godhead is kind of part of the package, if you can follow properly. But I think the real distinction is there, that one shouldn't be selfish and simply concerned about one's own purification. How to preach, how to give the message to others, that's even more pleasing to the Lord. And that's what Prahlad Maharaj also prays, that I'm not concerned about myself, but I want that all the mudhas, all the fools and rascals, they should get the chance to go back to Godhead also. So that's the Bhajananandi versus the Goshtiyanandi. Actually, the Goshtiyanandi, he may be engaged in so many different activities, whereas the Bhajananandi may just be chanting in 64 rounds, 100, 72 rounds, whatever. But in our parampara, the Goshtiyanandi is given more importance, and the process of preaching and sharing the message of the Lord is more important than one's personal bhajan and sadhana. So both have to be there, but I think we can agree that Srila Prabhupada's mood was more, you do your service, you do your sadhana, but you also try to help others. That'll actually please Guru and Krishna more.
Thank you.
And then ultimately, if the Lord wants us to come again and preach in another lifetime, we're happy to do that. If He wants to take us back to Godhead, we're comfortable both ways. It's a high level of devotional service, though.
Thank you. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that Jedino grihe bhajano dekhi grihete goloko bhai. You know the meaning of this song. And once we went to Jagannath Puri, and His Grace Pankajani Prabhu, he gave the seminar, and after finishing seminar, he asked the question, and so many Sankirtan devotees raised their hands. He said, what is your aim of life? All Sankirtan devotees told, we have to go back to Godhead. Then Pankajani Prabhu said, wrong. So he explained like this, like you. He explained everything. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. So please, again, a reminder, if you haven't submitted your homage to Srila Prabhupada, it's the last day to do it. More important than independence of India is dependence on Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Srimad Bhagavatam